Merlot from the Property Collab. Today I am representing New South Wales and I'm based on Sydney's Northern Beaches. Now, before I kick off today, I am cautious that there are many areas throughout New South Wales that are currently under different restrictions given the current guidelines. So today I'm specifically going to talk about the Northern Beaches and the Lower North Shore, which is our marketplace where we currently operate. So in comparison to last month of July, August, we have seen unchanged vacancy rates, currently still sitting at 1.7%. We're seeing across the board, the rental market is still incredibly strong. So we have been quite lucky in that regard. We are seen as a lifestyle location. So we have a lot of tenants moving into our area and a lot of our tenants aren't actually moving unless they absolutely have to right now. So given the influx of people moving into our area and the lack of stock on the market, we are seeing rental prices continue to increase. On our rental lease renewals, we are seeing rent increases across the board too, but they are quite property specific. So that can be anywhere from $10 a week through to, gosh, in some circumstances, I've had rental increases go through at $75 a week. So that really depends on the type of the property, the location. Different suburbs are obviously yielding a different return. But what we are also seeing is there are investors out there now in the market continuing to look to purchase investment locally because the market remains strong. So across the board on the Northern Beaches and the Lower North Shore here in Sydney, although we are in week 10, 11 of lockdown, we are still able to operate with some restrictions in place where we are able to lease our clients' properties on a one-on-one basis. Lease renewals, 95% of our tenants are staying on unless we've got a lot of people that are actually relocating up north. So we are seeing a bit of that transition in the market. And on that note, I'm sure Corinne will share some more information about what's happening over there in Queensland.
Thanks, Ash. I'm Corinne from Ray White in Beenleigh. We service the Logan area and also Northern Gold Coast. Our vacancy rate has actually stayed quite the same through, I think, the last quarter. We average anywhere between 0.6% to 0.8%. And as of this week, we actually, in our office, have a zero vacancy at all. We have not one property available for rent, which will change by the end of the week. Probably about 98% of our tenants are staying on. We are seeing, though, a lot of people trying to relocate from further south into sunny Queensland. We have also seen an increase in the last month of owners wanting to put the rent up more at lease renewal process. So it did start off quite low. They were only wanting to increase between $5 to $10. However, because the rents in the area have increased, now they're going up to $20 to $30 to $40 at lease renewal time, which, you know, tenants are more than happy to pay because of the vacancy rate at the moment. So we are still averaging about 13 to 15 groups through each open home. And I have noticed a slight increase of landlords actually wanting to sell their property because they're really wanting to take a chance on the really hot sales market at the moment as well. So that's been a bit of a trend. But yeah, we've been very lucky in Queensland. Everything's been going really well for a few months now. Vacancy rates are low. Quality of applications is still really good. So we do hope that it does continue on further towards Christmas. So all of our landlords have zero vacancy over Christmas. That will be our goal. But that's it for Queensland. So over to Jo in Northern Territory.
Hi everyone, Jo Griffiths here from Now Leasing in Darwin. We have been just pottering along quite well. And by pottering, I mean zooming because it's still very, very busy. Vacancy rates are still sitting anywhere between 0.5 and 1%, which has been fairly consistent for almost 9 months now. Rent increases are still reasonably consistent. Our average on a rent increase is still $50, which means that some of them are a bit smaller, but we are seeing some rent increases up around $150 a week mark, just considering by how quickly our market has jumped in the last 12 months. We're still seeing some really significant inquiry rates around 40 to 50 inquiries per property, and properties are only sitting on the market about 11, 12 days on average. We are seeing a big increase in rental stock being sold and heading over to the sales market, and a really big surge in people coming through open homes saying that they're having to move out because the owners are selling. And most of our selling stock is going to owner occupiers, not just investors just yet. So it is putting more and more pressure on our rental market. I think there's probably still room for more increases to happen, unfortunately, across the next quarter. Which is not so helpful for tenants still struggling to find somewhere. but hopefully it will bring those investors in, which will start to speed up the sales market, but also give us some more stock back into our market as well. But otherwise, all still pretty much as normal as it's been for the last quarter, and I don't think anything's really going to change much anytime soon. So we'll just keep slogging along towards Christmas and go from there. Over to Ash in WA.
Hi, it's Ashley from Soko Realty representing WA or Perth today. And our market has been very similar to previous months as well. It's pretty stable, but there's a big difference with each of our suburbs locally. So we're finding that there's some suburbs where they might have 75 properties available and then others where they only have 3. And it is not reflective on anything in particular. It's just some properties have more rental properties there currently available. So my tip today is more, if you have a property that is due to be renewed or due to be put on the rental market, do jump on and have a look at how many properties are currently advertised in that suburb. Because if there's under 15 properties currently advertised, then there's definitely an opportunity to do a decent rent increase or to advertise the property for a little bit more and maybe put a cheeky dollar on it. But if you have a rental property in a suburb where there's more than 15 properties available, I would be really, really conservative with it. So that's a tip when it comes to lease renewals. I am finding that there's less big increases happening for lease renewals at the moment, because we're actually finding that a lot of tenants are readdressing how much they're paying in rent and actually looking to downsize their property and their accommodation. So, and it's just starting to be really, really smart. So that is definitely happening. For example, I had a property the other day where the tenant was paying $650 and the property market was about $800 a week for the property, and they could only afford $680, but then turned around and actually said, listen, we're actually going to go find something for $500 a week and start saving a bit of money. So there's a lot of that going on, especially at the high end. Investors are very strong in our market, in certain suburbs though, so our interstate investors are still strong, and they're expecting a yield between 5% and 6%, so they're really buying well. And if they're buying a property with a tenant in there who's underpaying rent, it's another really great opportunity for them as well. So it will be good to see some local investors start buying instead of the interstate ones, because it's good for our own occupy market if we get a bit more confidence from that. But otherwise, it's a great place to invest still, and the rentals are stable, and tenants and renters seem to be pretty happy with the market as well, which is really good to see. So over to Tamika in Tasmania.
Thanks, Ash. I'm Tamika Smith, the Director at Key2 Property here in Tasmania. We service most of the north of the state. We've got 2 offices in the north and northwest, nearly, not quite that far, but almost. We're finding that Tasmanian's still super, super stable. We have been really fortunate here. We've not experienced a lockdown for over 12 months. So our market is fabulous, and it's really appealing to a lot of interstate investors. In the last week, we've picked up 12 new clients that are looking to buy down here, all from interstate. So that's fantastic. It's a really strong market. Our vacancy rate is still below 0, which is great, and doesn't look like it's changing. In our offices alone, we have 300 registered tenants that are looking to rent within the next 3 months, which is, again, unheard of at this time of year. So the market is strong. Rents are higher than, again, we've ever seen before. Lots and lots of interest as well from interstate tenants that are wanting to move down here, but they do need to have a home secured. So we're finding we're leasing a lot of properties off market or to people that are moving in, which is great. Investors that are buying here are buying really well, same as what it seems around the rest of the country. We're averaging about 5% returns, so that's really good for our investors. Lease renewals, we have 100% retention at the moment. Nobody is moving. Everybody is staying, and we're experiencing anywhere between sort of $20 to $60 a week increases, which again is really great. So Tassie is kicking along extremely well. So we've finally caught up to the rest of Australia. That's it for Tassie. Over to Mel in Victoria.
Thanks, Tamika. So Melissa Hickson here from Prime Residential, coming to you from yet another lockdown in Victoria. So look, things in Vic are going, they're going okay. I mean, look, we are seeing that the agents that are able to do everything digitally and have their agency fully digital are able to still thrive in the conditions. So at the moment, all of Victoria is actually in lockdown. We all have the same restrictions in place. So that means that there's actually no inspections. So we cannot physically do any face-to-face inspections. So Ash in New South can do inspections face-to-face. Victoria can't. So we are literally leasing properties from our videos. So if an agency doesn't have a video on their property, obviously, the likelihood is that they won't have anyone to actually rent it. So on the flip side of that, prospective renters are actually that they've adapted to this really well. Well, we've obviously been doing this for a number of months now. So they're happy to look at a video and apply in a video and take properties off videos. So that's a really great positive for our industry and property managers that are, in a position to forward think with their leasing strategies. So the vacancy rate in our area sits at about 3.5. It's pretty consistent. That's similar to what it has been over the last few months. And the vacancy rate in the inner city of Melbourne is at 8.2%. So it was still under 10%, which is really, really good for that inner city market that really struggled from last year. I'm finding that a lot of our renters are staying on. So we're not getting a whole heap of people move out. And if they are moving out, they're actually relocating to one of these guys' states because they're getting out of Victoria. So I find that is happening a lot. We are doing increases on certain areas. So there's not a lot of rental increases that are coming through at the moment. There's a lot of people that still can't work. There's a lot of hardship down here. So the owners are being quite conservative with that, and we're trying to keep people in properties. And obviously, we'll increase where we can, but sometimes it's just not justified, or it's not there. So look, overall, we're all okay down here. Properties are still leasing. Some properties are leasing within a couple of days of going to market, and some properties are leasing, within up to a month of going to market, just depending on what's coming through. I'm also finding that a lot of the applications that are coming in are not high quality in my particular area. So people that are applying on the video are just applying for everything. So we're going through the process of really screening them, to make, obviously we screen them, but screen them to make sure that they are genuinely interested in our property and making sure that they are qualified, because I'm finding that a lot of people that are applying may not be totally qualified. So hopefully next month it'll be a little bit better down here, but still soldiering on as we do.